What's happening, y'all? Welcome to Underneath the City Lights with Eddie Dynamite. First podcast, man, we got coming through full of great material, man. This going down, man. I'm very excited for this. This is my very first podcast, man. And I mean, I've been gearing everything up for this, man. I'm very, very, very excited, man. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have this thing full of all types of different history, different types of material, all types of segments, man. I'm coming to you with the real. You know what I'm saying? Um, Tonight, you know what I'm saying? I got a special guest coming. You know what I mean? He's the illustrious Mr. Johnny Richey. You know what I'm saying? He reigns from Portland, Oregon. He's been studying metaphysics for over 50 years. Um, Mr. Johnny Richey has been part of the FOI. Mr. Johnny Richey is a learned scholar and historian. You know what I'm saying? A master teacher is what I call him. I learned a lot from Mr. Johnny Richey. He's also a published author. You know what I'm saying? So Mr. Johnny Richey gonna come with some good information. He's actually working on a book now called The Creation of the Creator. Me and him was having these discussions the last few weeks, actually the last few months, about him writing on this book. So, and I thought it was something very, very interesting for the people to know and bring it to the forefront. Some things that people maybe may have not heard before, you know what I'm saying, and maybe out of your circumference of thinking, but nothing wrong with that because we always can reach outside to what we always think of because the rabbit hole goes deep. You know what I'm saying? This, like I said, this is my very first podcast. Things gonna get better as we go. New logos, plenty guests. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Johnny Richey is gonna start off this first web series. I think I'm gonna make this a web series because he's jam packed with information. He's talking about 50 years. We can't do this in one podcast. You know what I'm saying? So I spoke with him. Give me a little time tonight. I know it's a little late, but he gonna chop it up with us a little bit to start it off. I want to get a little background from Mr. Johnny. So, as we continue with the web series, everybody be familiar with him, man, and you know exactly where he's coming from. His book is all his works are great. You know what I'm saying? We definitely gonna post everything into the chat later on so everybody can reach out, grab one of the books, order one of the books. We gotta always support ourselves and support our brothers, you know what I'm saying, our black people, because I mean it's just an important thing to do. That's how we do. You know what I'm saying? So I want everybody to sit back, relax, catch a contact of this info, you know what I mean? And without further ado, we're gonna welcome Mr. Johnny Richey. What's going on, Mr. Johnny Richey? How you doing?
Oh, it's a blessing, brother. I appreciate you having me on your podcast, and everything is going like you said. It's our first time, and it's gonna be okay. I mean, you look relaxed. I'm relaxed. I'm ready to go ahead on and break down a little bit of my life. I guess I could just
Right,
start off
right.
with, I grew up
Yeah,
First
yeah,
Baptist Church.
first give us right, first give us before you even get into that, give us a little bit of your background, like your childhood. Bring us on into what led you on into being a part of the FOI. Let's before we even get into metaphysics, let's take it from there. Take us from your childhood and what led you on to being that. Take us on your journey, Mr. Johnny.
Yeah, I grew up in First Baptist Church. Uh, I'm the eighth kid out of 11. Two passed, so we was at the table with 11 instead of 13. My mom and dad. I grew up in a two-family house, so my mother was a church-going woman, and she had us in church. We did some of the Christmas shows, Easter shows in church, and as I grew up, from there, I went into various different types of religions. I even tried Buddhism. I tried Jehovah's Witness. Um, 1971, I became a member of the Nation of Islam. And from there, I loved it. And my first day walking in there, I knew it was the place to be, that I knew it was the place that I wanted to be. And I learned so much during that time under the teaching of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I guess I did 16, 17 years in the Nation of Islam, went into the FOI, did a lot of studying there. I even made it so far to what they call the problem book.
Oh
When the
wow, wow.
planets, when the planets, and then it was recalled during that time. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad recalled the problem book Few people still kept them. A lot of people didn't turn them in. But I never
Right,
really
right.
had my book, but it was a few brothers that had been in there and had shared
Who issued
that
these
information.
not to cut you off? Who issued these problem books? I mean, where did you get them from?
From Chicago, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad sent them to the captains and the ministers of the different temples across,
Right.
America. And so
Okay.
we ended up with some, and some of the brothers that was worthy that had been in there for a while and had passed certain steps, I should say, in the Nation of Islam. We had to quote the first 7 surahs of the Quran as we went into the FOI. Certain things we had to know. And that was one of the things I remember was I quoted the 7th verses of the Quran. And, I still remember it. It's just like it was the day that I was tested to repeat it. And, my memory had got so good in there because I was very disciplined through the Nation of Islam. So it was a piece of cake for me to do that, which was to quote this the first surah and the 7 verses out of the first surah. And it was just something that I looked forward to as I grew. And when I went into metaphysics, it was around.
Hold on, before you tap into metaphysics, I want to stop you right there.
Okay.
When you became a part of the FOI, what was that process in being a FOI? Because we know that's a super disciplined paramilitary group of the Nation of Islam. So what is your preparation? How did you say, how did somebody choose you, or what did you do to say, okay, I'm through to Islam? Can you take us through that process?
Well, you had sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and things like that. I guess the beginning would be a private going into the FOI. The process was that we stayed after the meetings, and then we did some, cleaning up and getting the chairs up, putting them out. That was also part of the FOI. They started you from the beginning, which was just discipline. It's been so long ago. I can remember vaguely certain little things that they did have us doing. You're talking about 1971. So
right.
Okay. So I just remember being in there, and we would also do weekends and stuff like that, or weekdays,
Right.
some weekdays. But you had a lot of brothers in there that was some beasts, man. And these brothers were 2nd, 3rd, and 4th degree black belts. They didn't teach us
right.
that little. They taught us how to kill. They taught us how to protect our sisters and our community without a weapon.
Most definitely.
So we were taught some very, very, I would say, interesting moves when it came to martial arts. And of course, before I even went into there, my older brother had us in the gym, and I was going into Golden Gloves boxing, so I also had a little extra push before I.
So was your brother a boxer?
The oldest one wasn't. My next to the oldest brother, yes, he was. He the one brought me in.
Okay.
Yeah, he He kind of brought me and mentioned it, and I guess a few months later, I said, "Well, let me check it out." And so that's what I did, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in there with my older brother, you know, because it gave me time to spend time with him too, which we didn't. It was so far away in age. I really didn't have a lot of time, 8, 9 years older than I was. And so, like,
Right.
when I'm 7 and 8, he's 16, and
Yeah. Right.
I was an uncle at the age of 8. So that shows you the gap of my
Right. The
sibling.
gap. Right. Right.
Yeah. So,
Right. So let me ask you a question. So, coming from your background, because I also read before we even, like I said, step into the metaphysics, because that's a whole nother journey that I know you're going to take us on. I read one of your books that you had on upon gang violence, being in gangs. In the book I read that you had your own trouble back and forth with the law when you were young. Can you take us on the journey and tell us about that?
yeah, that's in the book. Who do they say I am? I went through a lot of turmoil in Oregon. Just growing up, seeing Malcolm, Megan Evans, Martin,
Right.
uh, just these assassinations just did something to me as I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat on the couch and even cried with my mom when Martin Luther King
Wow.
was killed. My
Right.
family
Right.
wasn't too crazy about Muslims, but I felt so bad even when Malcolm got killed, even when Megan Evans got killed. Um, from that journey, I didn't care for Europeans. And we used to watch when we were small, the Ku Klux Klan march down. Right now, it was Union Avenue, but now it's Martin Luther King Boulevard. And I
Mm.
remember in the early 60s, they used to march. And my mother would tell us to stay on the porch. We can look at them right from the porch. It was around the sixth house from the block. So we had a very good view. And we watched that. And as I grew up, I just grew up rebelling against the system. Um,
Right. Right.
Oregon wasn't a lot of blacks there, and the blacks that were there was in a community. Um,
Hold on, Mr. Johnny. I didn't mean to cut you off. Can you your mic on the side? Can you lift it up a little more? I'm hearing your shirt a lot. Can you lift your
oh,
mic up
okay,
just a little bit?
that better.
I want to hear what you're talking about. Turn it the other way, yeah, more
Okay,
towards
hold
your
on.
mouth.
Let me do it
Yeah,
this
yeah.
way.
Okay.
It only comes so far. Can you hear me better
Yeah,
now?
that's way
That
better.
better?
I just don't understand why you telling your story. Right. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. We good.
And so I just it, I just grew up a troubled teenager, uh,
Right.
and from there, um, especially when I got into my, I'd say from 19 up into 30 years old, that's when all hell broke loose because that's when I really started rebelling, selling drugs, uh, drinking, smoking weed every day that I get my hands on. Uh, Drinking. One of my testimonies um, is that around 76, 75 is when I went to the penitentiary for selling drugs, which was heroin. When I got out of that situation, paroled and all of that, I had was only out like 4 months and went back and did 11. After doing 13 months, went back and did 11, got probation, was only out for about 3 or 4 months, went back and did a year, another year, just back to back. It took me 37 years to do 3 years probation.
Wow.
Yeah, 37 years. Um,
Mm,
I was in and out of Portland. They called
right.
me in Canada and they extradited me back to Portland. I was in Calgary. They extradited me back, sent me to the penitentiary again, Oregon State Penitentiary. And they didn't like the case that I had during that time. And I got out of there, went through the same thing that I went through uh, the last 4 or 5 years of being paroled on probation. So it was just a nightmare being up there in Oregon with all of those Europeans because there wasn't a lot of black people there, and I was just so rebellious. And this was during the time that I was in the Nation of Islam. Uh, I think I joined that when I was 17, somewhere in the neighborhood 18, and that's
I
when.
want people to this first now, Mr. Johnny. Y'all realize that Mr. Johnny is 72 years old. You know what I'm saying? So don't get it twisted. I know he look good, ladies. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? He keep himself together, takes care of himself. That's how we should want to do as we get older. You know what I'm saying? We get Mr. Johnny to give us his regimen a little later on. You know what I mean? but but definitely, Mr. Johnny, I know that was crazy. I would have never thought Portland, Oregon was on that type of timing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can you give us a example of some of the racist things that you saw around that time in Portland?
Uh, oh man. It's almost like when you saw the police with a car stopped, you knew 9 out of 10 that they was somebody black, not Mexican, not white, but black. Because even in Oregon during that time in the '60s and '70s, wasn't a whole bunch of Hispanic people there. They didn't start coming there until around 2000, and then it really got crowded with them. The Hispanic community started coming in. Uh, I just remember some of the crazy stuff, man. It just some of the petty laws or statutes or whatever they want to call them that it target the black community, man. Driving while suspended, driving while revoked. You could go to the penitentiary for those types of crimes. That is a joke in New York, Denver, Detroit, the bigger cities, Texas. I mean, that's a citation, but that was jail time, big time jail time. I was facing 22 years for traffic offenses. And
Wow.
yeah, just for traffic offenses. I thought I robbed the bank. So those were some of the types of, yeah, those are, and as those laws started being reinforced, I started to reinforce my negativity and my um, energy toward really breaking the law. Didn't care, didn't
Right,
care.
right,
Whatever they
right,
said,
right.
don't do, I did.
so so
Yeah,
so coming from that, going into your FOI journey, what was your first um let's just say introduction into metaphysics?
I never will forget this. I had got out of Oregon on the run, had warrants. I just got sick of going to jail. So, uh, like I said, I was still selling drugs, Ritalins, powder cocaine, heroin, and I had enough money to get up out of there. So I left, and I went to New York. I was in New York for about 6, 7 years. I was walking down 125th and Lexington. I ran into this bookstore. I forget the name of it. And we walked in there, a friend and me. We went in there and started looking around. And I saw the first metaphysical book that I picked up was called The Book of Barnabas. You know, Barnabas was one of the writers of Jesus. He's only mentioned like 2 or 3 times in the Bible. And I got into that book. I read that. Then I started seeing these brothers, and all white. And I didn't know who they were. And they were selling incense, selling tapes, uh, and ended up being Dr. Yark followers. And after I,
For the people that don't, for the people that don't know who Dr. York is, can you give them a little brief, a little synopsis of who Dr. York is?
Imam, I can't even pronounce all of those names that he called himself during that time. But Dr. Yark is the one that's in jail right now for child molestation. They the one. I think they gave him like 130 years. Uh, Nuwapian Nation, the one that they
Doc,
took,
he's talking
Dr.
about.
Malachi Yark. Yeah, and so during that time, 1981, 82, I started listening to a lot, as much material as I could up here, and then I floated back into the Nation of Islam. I was in and out. I started getting a lot of Farrakhan tapes, Imam Wallace D. Muhammad. I started getting his tapes because I was kind of torn apart in 1976 when Elijah Muhammad died. And actually, it was like not a fist fight, but a very, very verbal fight between Minister Louis Farrakhan and Imam Wallace D. Muhammad. And that's when
Give us something about that fight. Now, don't go too far. Now, I mean, like I said, we got a
um,
lot of people on here that don't know anything about that. Give us a little before you go into. I know you don't want to linger on that, but at least give us a little something, a little history about
I,
that, if you can.
I think they was more or less, I won't say fighting over the estate, but I think uh, fighting over who's going to lead the nation now. Wallace D. Muhammad had his own curriculum, um, so different from what Elijah Muhammad. Farrakhan was right there with Elijah Muhammad, and even his teaching stayed around what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching. So I was still in that tug of war. So I bought so many tapes of his, so many tapes of him. That's Farrakhan and Imam WD Muhammad, and I just listened to both, and then I kind of faded out of that and went back and kept studying metaphysics. And during that time, like I said, I had ran into uh, Dr. Malachi Yard disciples that was out there selling incense and CDs and books. And I bought a lot of books because I had the money. So I wanted to know. I was so thirsty, for knowledge and stuff like that. So I just wasn't no stopping me. I was going to get to the bottom of whatever I was looking for at that time and didn't even know what I was looking for. I just wanted to know. And then I really got deep into metaphysics and
So this book of
okay.
Barnabas that you got originally first.
uh,
What exactly was that book about?
uh, about a lot of things that was in the Bible and a lot of things that wasn't out of the Bible. One thing that stood out in the book of Barnabas was um, Michelangelo was questioned, just like in the Urantula. It's a thick book. And I read some of that about the pastorals of Michelangelo. It's so weird because now I know who Michelangelo was. Back then I didn't know, you know. But in the book of Barnabas, it was speaking about that he was questioned. Michelangelo would go to God and plead for the souls that were in hell, because they was only supposed to be in hell for 75,000 years. It's a really interesting book, you know, and that's one of the things that stood out that's really caught my attention uh, uh, doing the uh, reading the book of Barnabas. But it, like I said, it was some of the teachings of Jesus was in there. Like I said, Barnabas was what they call one of the writers. You know, like John, Luke, and all of them. Like I said, Barnabas only mentioned 3 times in the Bible. So, it was very interesting. It spoke on a lot of biblical stuff. Um,
Hmm.
um, it spoke on a lot of stuff that people wouldn't understand even today. A Christian,
Mm.
they wouldn't understand. You know what's being said. So it was just strange the way that that book presented itself to me at that particular time, and at that
So
particular.
so after this the Gospel of Barnabas, the book that you got,
Mhm.
um, what was the next your next selection or your next book? What was your next selection or your book that you came in contact, or what was your next content, metaphysical content that you came in after reading that book? What was the next situation?
Uh, During that time, after started following Malachi Yard, I had ran into some books like Bringers of the Dawn, The Prism of Lyra, Behold a Pale Horse. That's by um, William Cooper. Uh, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. Uh, the 300. Just those type of books. I kind of skimmed through them. Some of them I read. Uh, but don't
Oh,
forget the Holy Tablets was coming out during that time too.
mhm,
And
mhm.
my older brother had a library. He's still a Muslim today.
Okay.
Yeah, and I used to go over there and just do all kind of reading, and then he'd say, "Go get this book." He never would let me take them books out of there because people have a habit not to put them back, and I had a bad habit keeping books too. Okay, so
Right, right, right,
yeah,
right.
so those were some of the books that I did. I actually studied. Like I can go upstairs right now and get at least 60 books of Malachi Yark. At least 60. They pamphlets, all sizes, little ones, big ones, and I just came in contact with some of the metaphysics teachings that I was interested in. I would more likely do a lot of skimming through books and stuff. I found it at that particular time kind of boring to just sit down and just read a book all the way through. Very boring for me because I had so much energy and so many other things that I wanted to do and that was on my mind. Uh, when I really started focusing and concentrating on metaphysics, then that's when I was able to sit down and read a book from page 1 to 203 pages. So 400 pages,
Mhm.
however many pages it was.
Right.
Did a lot of study on Rosicrucians. My sister had books stacked. Uh, the Urantula, uh, the Bottom of Jesus, the East Indian book. Uh, some books that I even forgot, to be honest with you. Uh, it would come to mind if I'm starting to see other books and stuff like that, and I say, "Oh yeah, I remember this book," and what about this book right here? And it's just doing those 50 years of getting into metaphysics, man. You run into so much information. Uh, if I had a memory, man, that I can remember 90% of all the stuff I studied, I I would be just as bad as some of these brothers that I admire, such as Dr. Malachi Yard, Rod Hayes. These brothers I admire because these brothers have put their study in.
Right.
Um, Metaphysics is so deep. It's just like the more you know, the more you want to know, and the more it is to know. And
Right.
it's no way to touch the Akashic records. No way. I mean, you don't even have a half of a percent of just 50, 60. I don't care if you've been studying for 65 years, 70 years of metaphysics. You don't know nothing. You don't you I mean it's just that deep. You don't know nothing. You can only share.
So people that are not familiar with the Akashic records, can you give us a brief synopsis about the Akashic records? Can you tell us exactly what that is, the Akashic records?
Well, the constant record is the same thing that's in the Bible, the book of life. Uh the judgment book on your life. The Christians say that Jesus or God will open up this book to see if you've been bad or good, and this is going to tell them everything they need to know. Well, the constant records is the same thing, except for it's just explained in different words. The constant records just deal with the whole making of the universe, every thought that ever came out of a human being's mind or mouth. Just record it. Out of those trillions of people that lived before us, the cosmic
So
records.
when you so when you're saying everything that came out, so you're saying like this is ingrained in our DNA, basically.
Yes, yes, the cosmic records is a part of our DNA. The pineal gland is hooked up to every star, every galaxy out there in the universe. We have it in our DNA. It's, it's um it's a study of epigenetics, and we'll get into that some other time. That's just a whole different subject. We don't want to go into that. That's going to be down the line when we get into that. But the coding of the DNA, yeah, is definitely dealing with the Akashic records, or the Book of Life, as the
Most definitely.
Christians call it.
Right, right. So, reading a lot of your work myself, and like I said, studying and chopping it up with you when the times that I have, um, your work in ancient Samaria and Acadia and Mesopotamia is amazing. Um, can you
Absolutely.
take us? Can you take us to where did you begin your studies with ancient Samaria, and can you give us maybe um, a
A
way
brief,
how is ancient Samaria connected with metaphysics?
um, ancient Samaria and Akkadians, Mesopotamian, those places what they would call Iraq and Iran right now. So the ancient Akkadians and Sumerian, Mesopotamian area up over through there. Those, uh, I would say, beings during that time studied a lot of astronomical things like the stars. They knew, just like the Dogons, call them nomos, um, that was able to uh, understand the movement of the stars, how close the sun was from the earth, and the moon distance. And it was the same kind of thing almost that we did in the Nation of Islam with the problem book, except for their went more into details on when they did their uh, I could still call it metaphysics, quantum physics, so which is kind of in the same area, because when you study metaphysics, you study the universe, uh, things that's beyond Earth. Um, and to me, the difference would be on how the Akkadians and Mesopotamians and Sumerians did their study. They were travelers, just like we go from here to California. They went from Mars to Jupiter. You know what I'm saying? They were space travelers. That's how they got here on Earth. It's from what they call the planet Nibiru, where they call it the 12th planet here. That's what the scientists call it. They ain't gonna never tell you the truth. But they were travelers. We called ourselves travelers, when we had our little pimping game and playing game or whatever you did to travel. California, DC, New York, Canada, Montreal, Toronto. Well, they traveling was just like, hey, I'm going to Mars. Oh, let me go check out Jupiter or uranium. So it's just different, and it's kind of hard to conceive because a lot of people don't believe uh, in nothing but earthlings. They don't believe that there's other beings out there. They don't believe that there's other life in the universe because they stuck in a construction. And religion is a manipulated, uh, controlling device, and they can't get out of that dreadlock. It locks them in to Jesus is coming to save our souls, and I'm a sinner. And it just, they can't see beyond, because if the truth came out on what's really real when it comes to these other beings, such as the Sumerians and the Akkadians, and how they studied. And I know the question was, what's the difference between metaphysics and what they studied? Uh, that brief synopsis, what I was just telling you about how I got into metaphysics and how I can kind of weigh out the kind of difference between uh, what they did and what I study. My stuff was just a little drop in the bucket, because it's not that they are the fathers of metaphysics, but they're the ones that, through these secret societies, that's where all the knowledge is. And it's dealing with metaphysics and astronomy, astrology, um, and that's what they teach us in school, uh, about small stuff, stuff that locks our mind in on foolishness. and we're locked in on some silly things. I heard a brother say that look at the war in Israel and the Palestinians. They're fighting over land that don't belong to neither one of them. This is the silliness of religion. You know, the Jews, the Muslims, they in this light lock. That's what I'm gonna call it. They're locked in and they live in an illusion. And I don't see that ending nowhere soon because they don't know that they're sick. They don't know. They don't know that they're
Right.
both phony. They grew up into their religion. And this is the same way that when I grew up, I stopped doing some of the things that I used to do. Uh, Said 37 years to do 3 years probation had me locked in. Metaphysics got me out of the lock, and I was able to start seeing what others don't see that took me out of Christianity and took me out of Islam.
So let me ask you a question. Um, and just coming from what you just said, what was maybe the first, maybe I'm not going to say I guess we can say spiritual experience dealing with metaphysics that made you say, whoa, 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 this right here is, I mean, even though I've been studying, this is real. I mean, I really, this right here is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even with you writing your studies on ancient Samaria, your writings on ancient Samaria, all of these things that, like you said, you just touched on. What really your first impact besides reading the books that made you say, "Whoa, this right here is, I mean, this information is out of this world. I mean, this right here is the real deal." Can you take us there?
The first spiritual encounter that I had, I've had many, but the one that really blew my mind, a friend and I was in Washington D.C. We was on our way to Atlantic City. Before we went to Atlantic City from Washington D.C., we stopped by this tape shop that sold CDs. Back then, they were cassette tapes. So we was riding. You know, we'd get, I mean, you name it, the Four Tops, Switch, uh, Gladys Knight. I mean, we just went in there because we was hustlers during that time. So we had pocket full of money, and we bought a whole bunch of new cassettes, and we bought the case to go in. So we stick one in. We riding. We on our way to Atlantic City. So as we rolling and stuff, one of us said, "Man, put in such and such, man, LTD." I said, "Okay." So said, put in LTD. So as we riding on, now this is brand new tape. We hear a voice, and it's one of our women that we had that was talking to the police. So we
What?
listened. Yeah, tripped me out. And so we listening to this, and she was actually snitching, telling the police that yeah, he's my pimp. That's who I work for. And
Oh
so
wow.
yeah, yeah, and and I can call my friend right now, and he'll tell you the same thing. But we've done this quite a
Right,
few
sir.
times because we've told this story. So we took the
Yes,
tape
sir.
out and put it back in. It wasn't there. Tried to do it the next day,
Wow.
and it wasn't there. So as far as this, some type of spiritual experience, and we knew whose voice it was who was on the tape, but it was on a brand new CD that we got out of the tape shop, the music shop. That's
Oh
one of
wow.
that's one that really uh I knew then that it was some type of higher power. You know, we were
Right.
warned.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't
Right.
meant for whatever was going to happen to happen.
To happen to right.
Yeah.
Right. So
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 that
this so so taking it from there, um, because we know sometimes when we dealing with metaphysics, we also dealing with extraterrestrial experiences or that type of thing. Um, did you have any maybe those type of experiences during this time that you were studying? Did
I've
you do any study about extraterrestrials or UFOlogy? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
I've had experiences with what they call the little grays. Uh, I've had an encounter
Mm,
with one of them in my room, and it was weird. Uh, I mean, I was watching Billy Carson, and he was telling on his podcast one of the experiences that he had, and I kind of mine's was a little different from his because I was laying down in my bedroom and I woke up and I'm trying to get up out of bed and couldn't move, and I was wondering. I said, "What?" And I couldn't move, and now I'm starting to get nervous. And then so I kept trying to move. I mean, it's happened about 35, you know, 40 seconds. And then I turns around after I made a move and it's walking out my door. Yeah. And
wow.
it turned around and looked at me. Yeah. And so I said, well, let me get up and go see where he's going. But I didn't do it too
Mhm.
fast because I didn't want to run into him. You know what I'm saying? So I got up, looked out the door, and it was gone. But yeah, strange I've had an experience likened to Billy Carson. I've heard people talk about this stuff. It's real. Yeah, they do exist. If it didn't, it wouldn't have been in my room. So they
Right.
real.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Well, I know you're gonna get a little deeper. I know you're getting a little deeper in that until as we go
later
into
on.
deeper into when we start
Yeah,
discussing your book. Yes, sir. Um, um,
it's
this
in
is
my
another.
book.
Well, before I even ask that question, because I know I don't have you, but for so long, I ain't gonna hold you too long. I know you giving us a little bit of time, and I appreciate that. I know we're
Yeah,
getting close to that, and we don't got you too long. So, can you give us give the people a little bit of a little rundown what type of things you're going to be discussing in the next few weeks with the creation of the creator. Just give us just I mean, like I said, you don't got to give us all the juicy secrets and the jewels that you got for us, you know what I'm saying? But at least just give us a little rundown so people can get excited, prepared. I want them here with notebooks and pens taking this information. This is a master teacher we got coming on here, people. A master teacher. So I need everybody paying attention. I need your pens in hand,
I'm
your paper, your minds open. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
mm, when you get close to the mic,
Well, okay, go ahead, Mr. Johnny. You good?
when you get close to the mic, Eddie, you get that robotic sound. Stay away from it. Don't put it so close to your mouth.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
just kind of hold it down a little
I
bit. There
got
you
you.
go. It's
Got you.
lots clearer like that. I'm going to be discussing in the creation of the
Mhm.
creator uh, how they stole a lot of stuff from books like the Luma Lish, ancient texts
Right,
of the.
right.
I went into. I've been writing this book for 3 years now, so uh, two and a half for sure. So I'm going on my third year. Uh, uh, getting where I want to be and putting it into layman's term. I'm not trying to use no big words with every other word. People got to look it up. I wanted to flow. And to get that going, I'm doing my own editing. I got a lot of pictures. Uh, they'll say, "Well, you can be sued for these pictures." I said, "No, because you got all these pictures from us." You know what I'm saying?
Right,
These
right,
pictures belong.
right,
They belong to the public. They don't belong to no certain artists. I try to stay away from artists' pictures. So I try to do
right.
statues. These statues are
Okay,
hundreds of years old. Some are thousands of years old. So and it's going to break down. I do the 10 main religion: Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, uh, Jainism. Um, these particular religions, you can see where they copied everything. I'm talking about everything. It all starts off with this race called the Anunnakis. Uh,
right, right,
the Anunnakis is just not one race. It's just about um, any types of beings that what we call extraterrestrials could be called an Anunnaki. But there is a certain
gotcha.
species from the brew that started this religious docu, or I should say curriculum. And
Right, right,
this particular curriculum of religion is taken from the Sumerian, Akkadian, Mesopotamian. Uh, they all started from over in that area, and you can say Africa because that's where it's at. On how it flourished, where it
right,
blossomed,
right.
the germination of these religions, man. I mean, you got to get this book because it's gonna trip you out. Now, I show you how they all took it from one another. I show
Mm,
you where the cross came from, the star and
right.
crescent came from, the flood
Mm,
came from. Jesus wasn't the only one walked on water. You had Egyptians,
right.
priests that could walk on water.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I show you Gilgamesh flood. I show you the flood of Japan's gods. I show you the flood of
Mm,
Chinese gods. The Hindu gods had a flood. And I show you where the gods are Anana, Anut, Enki, Enel, Zorak that died. Zeus, Poseidon was dead for 3 days and rose. I
mm,
show you where all these other sons of gods that were crucified. Uh, right in the book. It's right there in front of you.
right.
I show you where to go get it and look at it.
Mm,
You don't
yes,
believe
sir.
me? Study. It's a trip when you see that the 10 major religions, I show you where they all started from an angel.
Right,
An angel came to
right.
Joseph Smith and the Mormons.
Hmm.
An angel came to Mary. An angel came to Abraham. An angel came to Gabriel in Islam.
Right.
They were all started by angels. Angels in Hindu, they just call her devas. It's still angels, but
Mm.
it's the same thing. It's the higher being
Right, right.
that started
Hmm. Hmm.
religions. What else? I don't want to get a book away. Uh,
No,
but
you don't got hey, you gave us that was a beautiful rundown. And I mean that's so y'all already know there's gonna be these next few weeks gonna be power packed. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Johnny coming on. Whenever we can get a hold of him because he's a busy man. Like I say, he's a learned scholar, he's a self-published author, he's working on a book right now, The Creation and the Creator. So, we can catch him when we can, but we definitely want this information for the people that don't have it and Like I said, I've never heard these things, and these things are out of the circumference of your thinking. We want everybody to uh, uh, um, to get out of this. You know, sometimes our thoughts are just inside this little small little bubble. You know what I'm saying? And what everything else is from the outside. We want to get out of this little bubble and just think outside of our own minds sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And just come into some other things. And like we say, the rabbit hole goes deep. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's been a pleasure to have you tonight, Mr. Johnny. Beautiful rundown of your life. We are very excited for the next time to bring you back. We're very excited for the next show. I know I am. I'm gonna have my pen and paper ready. I don't know about nobody else. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking notes from the master teacher because it's times like this where we have older brothers and older elders in our community that we don't value that have this type of information that we don't even talk to and don't even try to get it off. And when they try to bring it to you, you know, we worry about everything. Everybody worried about pop trivia, pop culture, and don't worry about your history. These things are very important to pass on to our kids and our future young children coming along that's going to take the reins of this stuff. Um, so definitely, man. Like I said, this first episode, we didn't have a whole lot of hiccups. You know what I'm saying? We had a little stuff. It didn't go perfect like I wanted to, but it still went like I needed it to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Mr. Johnny, you know, I appreciate you being my first guest. You know what I'm saying? I think so everything went good. Like I said, underneath the city lights with Eddie Dynamite is going to be world fantastic show, man. We're gonna have all types of guests, man, all types of things going on. We're gonna chop it up. uh, right here in the Queen City, man. You know what I'm saying? All types of different interesting people that we got, man, with interesting information and people just from all over, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know what I mean? This underneath those city lights, you know, when those brothers on the corner, man, we talking about a little bit of everything under them lights, you know what I'm saying? From ladies to religion to politics, you know what I'm saying? A little bit of everything, finances. So that's what we're going to be here. It's not going to be put us in a box because life ain't a box. Life comes at us with all types of ways, so that's how we gonna bring it. So, Mr. Johnny, being that said, Mr. Johnny, I'm gonna give you the last word. You can chop it up for us, send us on out. I love y'all. Peace.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on too, bro. And you know, it's been a blessing. Just to talk to the audience and to get the people started awareness on what we're going to be doing. My broadcast is called Universal Conscious Awareness. We're going to be
Almost.
actually,
I forgot. I'm sorry, Nick. That's number one. I didn't address that and let everybody know. Mr. John is also working on his own podcast, Universal Conscious Awareness. Yeah. So you definitely tune in on that. He actually working with me. We're doing something together, so it's gonna be real big. You know, we kicking it off, but we're gonna keep y'all updated with that. But definitely, that's something y'all gonna love this. Just be on the lookout for that. But
yeah,
we bringing this information on types of things.
we're going to have some nice little
What
heavyweights on here. We're going to try to do some Dr. Valentine, Rod Hayes, was Richey, Black Magic, 366. They got our brother locked up, Jamal. I hate
right?
that they locked him up. But well, Dave Calloway, Damon Calloway. We're gonna try to have as many brothers that we're gonna merge with. Just to get this information out, just to name a few of the brothers that I kind of like, Dr. B. Syria, Professor Kaba. We're gonna try to get a
Right,
hold of
most
some of
definitely.
these brothers, email them and ask them to come on our show so that they can also share their information on the
Most
subjects
definitely.
that we are going to be talking on. Um, so, with that said, it's getting a little late. We're at a little over close to an
Close to
hour.
an hour.
We over an hour now,
But like I
so
said,
yeah. But
we appreciate you, Mr. Johnny. Like I said, we definitely gonna bring you back. And like I said, appreciate everything that you do for the people. And we'll see you soon, everybody. I appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next time.
Peace and blessings, y'all. Have a good one.
Blessings. Yes.